Hey y'all, it's your girl Boonie, and you're listening to the Boonie Breakdown podcast, your source for all things responsible and ratchet. All right, welcome to this week's episode. We have a great episode. It's a responsible episode, but it is an important episode. And this week, our guest is Jessica Guthrie. She is a dementia caregiving advocate, a thought leader, and executive consultant. We have a great conversation about how she became her mother's primary caregiver. Her mom has early-onset Alzheimer's, and Jessica shares her story of how she had to really uproot her life to become her mom's 24/7 caregiver. We talk about how caregiving is not sexy, but it's so important. And many of us may find ourselves in this situation at some point in our life, especially as millennials, young Gen X. And I too share my story. You know, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know my story about being a caregiver for my grandparents. But she offers advice. We talk about money, how she cares for herself. So this is a really, really great conversation, and I hope you stick around for that. All right, we're just going to hop into, I either do a pick of the week or a drag of the week. And this week, I think it's a drag, and it's going to be very succinct. Very to the point, but I just want to make it very clear so everyone knows where I stand on what's happening in the world. Fuck ICE. I think we need to defund, deconstruct, and abolish ICE. And it is deplorable watching U.S. citizens being gunned down in the streets for the rights that we all have as Americans. And so I know it's a lot happening in the world. I know the 92% we're watching from afar to be like, we tried to tell y'all we could have avoided all of this. And I think that is the the most damaging part about this is just like, if you had listened and done what we all needed to do, this would not be the life we're living. But yes, I just wanted to make that very clear where I stand. And I think too, it's like I have the personality where I want to do something, but I'm not putting my body on the front line. And so I know people have been sharing resources. I've been resharing some of them about how we can support the cause from afar. And so I will continue to share those on my social platform as I see them from reputable sources.
Housekeeping. Come back later, please. Housekeeping. Not now.
All right, so we had last week's episode. We were back with Curvy Katie, and I got so many new followers from that episode with Katie, so welcome. I hope you're still listening. It was a great, fun episode. Katie talks about her love of comedy and creating content online, but she is an avid reader, an avid person in book talk, and she read 160 plus books last year. I think she said she ended the year at like 200 books. But it's a great, fun conversation. And the biggest point of feedback that I got in the DMs and stuff from folks was I shared a reel where I said, how does reading all of these romance books affect your dating life? And so that was a really great conversation with Katie. So if you missed it, go back and listen to last week's episode. Also, we're going to do a merch code. Someone asked me they wanted to get some sweatshirts. So I'm going to do a merch code, 20% off using the code COLDAF, all cap letters. Head on over to theboonieBreakdown.com/shop. I'm also going to do a $10 merch sale sometime this week with stuff that I have on my person in my possession that I really need to thin out on. So I'm also going to do that. So just follow us on social media at the Boonie Breakdown on Instagram and on Threads. I'm most active there. I deleted my TikTok again, so don't follow me there. But yeah, Threads and Instagram and Facebook at the Boonie Breakdown. All right, and also Patreon gang. Take a look on the platform. I'm going to put up a poll because it's time for us to do a kickback. Need to get in the flow, but I think we should have a really cool Valentine's Day kickback. So I'm going to put up some date options and whichever one wins. So make sure you check that out over in Patreon. All right. So if this is your first time listening, welcome. I hope you stick around. Again, follow us on social media and let's get ready to break it down. All right. So, guys, I'm excited for this episode. I like to do a little responsible ones every now and then because we need it to guide us through real life. And I would like to welcome Jessica Guthrie to the podcast. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We were talking before I hit record, and I always love when the universe provides to me exactly what I was looking for. All of this just aligned so properly. And how I found Jessica was because someone who follows her reposted one of her reels where she was sharing her story about being a millennial caregiver. And if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, episodes years ago, I shared my story about how I was a caregiver for my grandmother first through her battle with cancer. And then I had to be my grandfather's caregiver in a different capacity. But I've done it for the grandparents. And I don't think us elder millennials, baby Gen Xers, are ready to step into what it looks like to care for your parents or your grandparents or a aunt or uncle or any family member. And so when I saw your story, it connected and I said, gotta have her on. So I'm glad you accepted,
Yes, I love that my reels are reaching people. That's awesome.
especially on Instagram, who they change the rules every time you learn to do something new.
So
So
true.
if you could just give us a little bit of your story and how you found yourself in this space and wanted to talk and share your story with people.
Yeah, so I became my mother's full-time caregiver at the age of 26. I am an only child, daughter of a single mom. We grew up two peas in a pod. My mother was a hair salon owner. So she was truly the hostess with the mostest, bold, unapologetic, truly someone who left things better than she found them. My mom gave up her career as a cosmetologist, hair salon owner to build a home for us in suburban Virginia so I could have the best schools and the best education. So that's like the premise of my mom has truly created a world where she provided the best for me. And so we fast forward to 2014. My mom is still an educator in our local school district, and we find out that she has been diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's disease. In 2014, my mom was 65 years old, and I was 26 years old. I was living in Dallas, Texas at the time. I had just kind of started my career in nonprofit educational leadership. My mom was in Virginia, and after the diagnosis, the first thing I said was, okay, we're going to make this work and I'm going to figure out how I can still keep my job, live in Texas, and make sure you have everything you need to thrive. And so that was 2014. I hit the ground running. I came home and created all the systems, the meal preps, the signage, making sure she had activities, called her every single day, every hour on the day. That went on for a good 4 to 5 years until my mom's
Wow.
disease
Wow.
until her disease progressed to the point where I could no longer just rely on cameras and door and companion care for a few hours, and so I packed everything up in Texas, and I moved back home to my childhood bedroom in 2019, so that's about 5 years into her disease, and I've been home ever since, and so fast forward to 2025, almost 2026. My mom is still here. She just turned 77 in October, and she's now living with the most advanced stage of Alzheimer's disease. I am her eyes, her ears. I feed her. I give her every sip of water. I am truly her lifeline. But I can tell you, it's been the greatest privilege of my life to care for her the last 11 years and 3 months.
That's amazing. And, I feel like how quick things can change. I commend you for it, to know that you tried for 5 years to keep your life as normal as possible, and I shook my head when you said it because I remember, trying to be my grandmother was still alive, trying to be her caretaker. Um, I was Thankfully, at the time, my grandfather was still alive, so he was there with her, like,
Mhm.
24/7, and I got to do the grocery shopping, pay the bills, get the medication. I had to give her a daily injection every day, and so it was like but he was there, right? If she needed to go to the
Right.
bathroom, he kinda did that kind of care. But
Mhm.
at the crux of it, it was like I was still trying to preserve my life, and so it's like I'm doing this, and taking care of my grandfather, but I still want to go to Europe and I still want to do this. And I just remember trying to fight to preserve so much of normalcy for me while knowing all of this was happening. And
Yeah.
at one point just being like, okay, you got to face reality, what's happening here. And
Mhm.
it was tough. And I think
Mhm.
being so young, like, you're an only child,
Mhm.
26, that's such a big pivot.
Mhm.
Caregiving's not sexy.
It's not. At
It's
every stage, you're just like, this was not on my bingo card at all, you know?
never, and it's like, as you said, it's the greatest privilege. Like, I felt the same. Anybody who knows me, my grandmother was my everything. And so it didn't matter. Yes, I will be there to give you a daily injection. I will lift you up. I will wipe your ass. Like, I will do all of this. But at the same time,
Mhm.
it does wear you down.
Yeah.
And so I just want to ask you, you've been doing this for 11 years. Like, how do you still do that and care for your mom and honor your mom,
Mhm.
but care for you too? Because the
Yeah.
caregiver has to get care as well.
Absolutely. I've been really disciplined about making sure I prioritize Jessica in the midst of all of this, but I should let me not make it seem as if I've always been that way. So, the first half of this journey, so I've been working full time this whole time, right? So, I'm so fortunate that I was able to keep my job. I had a really
Mm,
supportive work environment, really supportive managers. We had the leave set up. And so like I was able to travel back and forth. I was able to be in 2 places at once. While I was still burning the candle at both ends, I was still able to keep my job, which matters a lot when it comes to
yes.
my own, like, just mental health and financial well-being and all the things. So that was number 1. Less about what I did, but more about, like, having a supportive work environment allowed for me to still be able to show up for Jessica and my mom because I knew that every week or every 2 weeks, I was flying back to Dallas and would have a life. Like, all my
Mm,
friends were still there, my community was there, so I was able to kind of unplug when I wasn't home. Um, but in addition to that, when we reached 2020, when I moved back home, I thought I was having a heart attack. My heart was palpitating, I was like my palms were sweaty, and it was
mm,
just my mom and me at home, and I was like, "If something happens to me, no one would ever know, and who's gonna care for my mom?" And it was that moment, it was September 2020, I was like, "I have to change things up or else I'm not going to be able to care for my mom anymore." And after that incident, I became really disciplined with my own meal preps, disciplined with going to the gym, disciplined with my own like morning meditation, quiet time. I'll stay up an extra hour just like have time for Jessica. I will hop on a plane and go to Mexico in a heartbeat. Will I pay for it? Yes. But like I will never say no if I can figure it out. And I
I love
think that
that.
that's what allowed me to still be Jessica.
I love that. I love that because it is important. I know people say it and it sounds cliche. And I remember when I was in it, people are like, take care of you. And I'm like, how? How am
Right.
I going to, and then you're right. It gets to a point where your body will sit you down, your brain will sit you down, and you have to take care. You have to listen and
Yeah.
take care of yourself. So I love this that, like you said, you have your discipline, you have your routine built that you
Mhm.
support you too, so that you could take care of your mom.
Mhm.
Um, I know, it was different because my grandmother had cancer. It wasn't Alzheimer's. So it's a different debilitation happening. But I do say, I think one of the hardest things, and, I think I watched a YouTube video after I first found your page before I reached out, and it's the grief of watching your loved one slip away.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just said 11 years. I mean, that's tough. And I mean, just to see you still smiling and vibrant, I think that just makes me smile, even though I don't know you. But it's like that makes me smile because it seems like you are doing what you say. Like it's not lip service that you're taking care of you while you're, caregiving for your mom. And so, how has that been for you just to know that, like, this is my role? That's a huge responsibility, though.
Yeah. Don't let the smile fool you. So, I mean, yes, my affect is typically like this no matter what's
Okay.
going on. And I've been really thoughtful about making sure I find the joy in all the little moments because I recognize that life is so fragile. And it wasn't until I put my mom on hospice the first time, May 16th, 2022, was when I really slowed down to realize that in the end of the day, my mom just wants me near her. My mom just wants me present. She just wants me proximate. All the other stuff honestly doesn't matter. And ever since that first time on hospice until now, I look at every day as magic time because she could die tomorrow, right? But I know that I showed up with grace. I showed up with patience, and I did everything I possibly could to give my mom the life that she deserved, but also loved on her, made her comfortable, made her feel seen and valued. And so that's what brings me joy on a daily basis. But I say all that is that like I often hold joy and grief together
Mm,
every day. Like for instance, today, what's it, December 29th, the hospice CNA came today and changed my mom into a new gown. My mom has lost a significant amount of weight. And when we think about the end of life, one of the things that starts to happen is your person just starts to shrink. And
yes.
my mom is very much shrinking. And today was one of those like visible reminders that my mom is dying. And even though I'm feeding her every day, and even though I have so much joy, my mom is slowly slipping away, right? So I don't know, but I can hold those tears and the joy at the same time because I recognize that, um, yeah, it truly is a gift to be here with her because I don't get another
Yeah.
mom. You only get one mom, you know? You only get one.
You
So
can only
you
get
figure it
one.
out.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. Like, you definitely have to cherish those precious moments.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I love that you said you hold the grief and the joy together because grief is such a tricky emotion. It's the trickiest of emotions. And I remember, like, after my grandmother passed, I was told this story on Saturday. I was in the Walgreens, and this is years. I mean, my grandmother's been gone at this point now, like 14 years, right? And so maybe it's like year 12, and I'm in the Walgreens, and this older lady walks by me drenched in white diamonds.
Uh,
And I'm like, "Oh my god." Like, that was my grandmother's jam. And I literally got in the car and sobbed because it was just like the smell, I don't know what it
took you
triggered,
back. Yeah.
but it was just like, "Granny," and I sobbed at the smell of white diamonds. But then I have moments where I see a butterfly, and every time I see a butterfly, I'm like, "Hey, Freddie," because she loved butterflies. And
Mm.
so it's like you say you hold it, but it's so precious. I mean, I I guess I'm in awe a little bit because
Mm.
to do caregiving 24/7, I mean, it's speechless. And I think it's why I wanted to do the episode with you the most is because I don't think millennials, people our age, get it. I don't
Yeah.
think we get it. It's also the piece of you have the person you love dearly, who you want the best for, but how much comes with advocating for them, the appointments, cost, money,
Oh,
time,
yeah.
insurance, like, all of these things.
Yeah.
And it's like, all you want I just want my person to be well cared for, my loved one to be well cared for. And
Yep.
so, if you could go through all the things you've been through the last 11 years,
Oh my gosh.
what is the biggest piece of advice you would tell someone if they were
Yeah.
starting on a caregiving journey?
Ooh, okay. Um The first thing I'll say is that there are 63 million family caregivers in this country as of today in 2025. And there's probably more, but according to AARP and the most recent study by the National Alliance of Caregiving, there are 63 million family caregivers. 1 in 5 of those caregivers are, like, classified as millennials. And so if you aren't a caregiver yet and you're listening to this, you likely will be in the next 1 to 3 years. That's the first thing I'll say is that it's like, you might think that everything is good, people are fine, and it's often, like, the most, like, moment where you least expect it, and you have to step into this role, that often happens for us that are, that are millennials. The second thing I'll say is that if you are thrust into this role as care partner, caregiver, thinking about caring for someone else, the first thing I would say is that one, your person, whomever you're caring for, is still a human. They are not their disease. I've obviously been navigating a form of dementia, and I think that there's a lot of stigma around forms of dementia. But regardless of the disease that you're navigating, your the disease is not your person. Your person is living with said disease. So my mom is living with Alzheimer's disease. My mom worked for the first year and a half of her diagnosis. My mom lived independently for 5 years. And so it's up to you, daughter, sibling, niece, whatever, to make sure that you're treating your person with the utmost dignity and respect and as a human, right? Because they themselves are feeling all the changes. They're feeling just as frustrated. They're feeling just as confused. And it might show up as
Yes.
behaviors that are frustrating to you, but it's the same thing you're feeling. So that's the first thing I would say is like, let's just normalize that everyone is struggling. Okay. Number two, I would say is that we often wait too late to talk about end of life plans, care plans, financing for care plans. And by the time you really start to figure it out, it's almost too late. What people don't realize, and I know that we, especially in the Black community, hate talking about death and wills and trusts,
Oh,
but
they hate it.
yeah,
Oh, they hate it.
you need to get those things in order now while everyone is seemingly healthy. Why? Because you don't realize this, but long-term care, you want to put your person in a nursing home or a memory care facility, that's easily 10K a month or more
And
for like
and
mediocre care.
I'm like at best. And don't let them have any assets. Then you gotta spend them down, right? Like, all of this stuff you don't learn until you're in the moment, and you're like, "My whoever is getting out of the hospital, and I have nowhere to put them. What are you talking about their house, their bank account? I don't have time to think about this."
Yes.
And the things you learn in the moment when it's critical and every second counts of their care, and I can't even tell you the number of times where I've had to learn the code words you say at the hospital so that they won't release them because you don't have a safe return to home plan, right? And it's certain
Yep.
things you need to say because the
Yep.
hospitals want to dump that person out so they can flip that bed or wherever. And it's
Yep.
like, I don't have a safe plan to return home.
Yep.
And that buys you 2 days. And then they're going to come knocking again. And then you're like, I need the hospital advocate, right? And it's like, but you're so in the pressure, but it's all rooted in love. And to your point, your loved one is frustrated
Yep. Yep.
and you're frustrated and the systems keep pissing you off.
Mhm.
That
And you
the financial planning and the long-term care, I mean, I could go on and on about that
yeah.
in a whole episode, but
Yep. And you realize very quickly that all of this is all just a money game, and you're like, "Okay, that pisses me off even more," because 'cause you're just like, "I just want my person to be cared for, yet you're nickel and diming me, or there's a rule or a process for this, it doesn't even make sense, it's a dated or antiquated system."
it
Like, it
is
just you realize that nothing is truly in service of the
the people.
patient and their
Nope,
family.
nothing,
And you're
nothing.
just like, "This isn't healthcare, this is sick care," right? Because if you really cared about living, we would actually think about this process very differently. To your point, it's a whole other episode,
It
but
is.
get your finances in order and, like, know a plan early about, like, who do you want to care for you? Where do you wanna be cared for? How are you gonna finance your care? Talk to an estate lawyer now so you can move your assets into a trust so that if you wanna leverage Medicaid, your
Then you
stuff.
can.
Right. So, like, those things matter a lot. And then my last piece of advice, I mean, there's tons of stuff, but the last thing I would just say is that in the end of the day, you are your person's greatest advocate, right? I think there's a lot of misconceptions that like doctors are looking out for you or medical professionals have your best interest in mind. And to be honest, some of my greatest frustrations have come from medical professionals, doctors, people who are supposed to have your best interest in mind. And if I didn't speak up or have evidence or clear like documentation, things could have gone south very quickly. And so you don't have to be type A and all the things, but you need to document the journey so that you can truly speak up for your person. Because if you don't, no one else will.
Yes. The role of an advocate, I can't overstate how
Mhm.
important that is.
Mhm.
It was a number of times in several medical facilities where I'm like, I will, I'm so like one time I remember I was so angry. Like, I'm like, just get an ambulance here. Like, I will pay it out of pocket myself. Just call it. And they're like, you can't call 911. I'm like, watch me. And I'm
Right.
like, now I want like get somebody here, And so it's like sometimes you're advocating so hard, so passionately that you're unraveling. It becomes a heated moment.
Yep.
Other times it is simple as just knowing what the policies are,
Mm.
knowing your rights, knowing your loved one's rights as a patient. Because like you said, if you don't know what you don't know, and the people on the other side take advantage of what you don't know.
Yep. Yep.
And I learned that so many times. It was so frustrating when, I'm like, my grandmother got to a point where she could no longer walk. And they're like, okay, she can go. And I'm like, but she lives in the house and it's 8 steps to get in the house. Like, what
I
am I going to
didn't
do?
know.
You know, what am I doing? I don't know what to do now. And
Yep.
so something is, like you said, overnight, the whole way of life changes.
Mm.
And just am so thankful for people in that journey with my grandmother. I too was 26 when I was dealing with that with my grandmother. And I'm trying, literally, the hospital is in the middle of a snowstorm. And the hospital is like, she has to go. And I'm like, but we have 10 steps to get her in the house and her bed is on another left. Like, what do you mean? And I remember, like, I got to find a senior building. Like, I'll just find an apartment. I'll deal with the house later. I'll just get them in an apartment. But then I found out apartments here for senior buildings have 5 and 6 year wait list.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
What? Like,
Mhm.
it was like a gut punch. And I remember going, like, I just kept driving to different buildings in this like snow. And I got to one, it was the last one. He's talking to me and he's like, all right, yeah, I can put you on the list for 2017.
Oh.
It's 2011.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I literally just burst into tears in his office.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
he's like looking at me and I'm like, I just met my grandmother. And he's like, okay, I have an apartment that's going to be available tomorrow. The people are moving out.
Oh, wow.
He
Get
said,
out.
he's like, I will paint it tonight, but you got to come back with cash right now. I couldn't even get out that chair fast enough. I said, sir, don't call. I'll be back. I ran to the bank so fast. I just got the money out.
Yep.
And again, being able to have the means, right? I consider that a blessing that I had the means to go get a couple $1,000s
Yep.
to come back and get them this apartment and rent a U-Haul. I mean, it was just like, I can remember it like it was yesterday. And
Yep.
so it's just like, that was the start of, okay,
Mhm.
the tears work here, but they aren't always gonna work. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
that's when I started reading policy, knowing what I could say. I said, I never want to be in this situation again where
Mhm.
someone's putting my loved one out and I have nothing I don't have a plan.
Mhm. Yep.
And that was my thing. Okay, these are the code words, hospital advocate, all that stuff. Like, these are
Mhm.
real things and they legally cannot put your loved one out of a facility.
Yep.
And I share that with people. I've seen it now with, I guess, share it with friends who are struggling with this journey. And I'm looking like the baby boomers are all there.
Right. Mhm.
This country is not prepared for the aging population.
Not at all. Not at all. Not prepared for the age population, and people are not prepared to care. Like, not just like, "I'm gonna be a caregiver," it's like, people don't want to care for others. There's like, I look at Gen Zs and millennials, and there's a lot of folks who don't have good relationships with their parents. There are people like, "Oh, well, it's not my responsibility to care for them. I'll just," they're gonna go to the local facility or community, and it's like, unless you have the means to put your name on a wait list now, know that you should, right? Like, or you're stuck in the middle where you can't afford one and you don't qualify for Medicaid. Who gonna care for you then, right? Like, I think that people like there's literally gonna be a bottleneck, and people are gonna have to step up, but no one wants to. And I
Yes,
think like that is a thing we have to truly start discussing. But I also think that like so many people are actually already caring, but not giving themselves the title of caregiver or like
mm,
wanting to hold that title because it feels too much pressure to do that. But it's like you're
yeah,
already calling home every other day. You're already sending groceries. You're already asking your parents these things. Those are forms of care.
they are.
So lean into it.
And especially, for Black millennials who are Henrys, high earners, not rich yet, a lot of us are already financially doing that, right? Right? Like, don't nobody
Yeah.
want to talk about that. but you may be sending money to your mother or parents or whoever, or, you're not giving it to your parents, but you're supporting younger siblings who
Mhm.
need financial means. So again, that's an excellent point you're bringing up that it's already in practice without
Mhm.
the name, the
Mhm.
title.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Something you mentioned earlier that I just wanted to touch on just to pull out was just, like, the level of desperation, right? Where you just, like people don't realize that, like, you end up doing the craziest stuff not knowing that you're doing the craziest stuff. It's just, like, by any means, I need to get to a solution. So if that means me running to an ATM in the middle of the night to get cash, right? Like, when you that we shouldn't have had to do that, but you did anyway, you know what I mean? Like, what does that if that means, Imma prep 50 meals just because I wanna make sure my mom eats while I'm not here. Like, you do some of the wildest things in
You do.
service of making sure your person gets what they deserve, but, like, at what cost? At what cost is, like, your own mental health and well-being, like, the level of stress that you're holding on top of trying to work, on top of trying to show up for you. Like, I think that's what I wanna make sure people also hear is, like, no matter what the disease, you're always thinking about someone else. You're always
Yeah.
strategizing the next step. You're always, like, planning for the what ifs, and so the burden is constant. And I think that caring requires you to, like, just yeah, I wanna acknowledge that it's never you can never turn it off. Like, once it's on, it's on.
Yeah.
I think especially as someone who's been a full-time solo caregiver, like that's been my reality even now, like, it takes 90 minutes to feed my mom every meal, and then I give her sips of water every 15 minutes, and then I change her every, like, 2 hours, and you know what I mean? Like, it's like every hour of my day is care in some way.
Yeah.
That's wild, like,
It
that's
is.
not normal.
It is, and I do think, like, you labeled it right, desperation. Like, it was
Mhm.
just it's times when you're just so desperate, it's like, it's another thing, and we got this plan, and then here comes a curveball that you didn't account for, and, like, what is that? And
Mhm.
so, I think for me, like, even though it was hard that year and a half, and I think one thing I did that I didn't share until maybe years after my grandmother passed was that I had my grandmother's medical power of attorney.
That's
And
good.
so I was, making decisions for her or she was still lucid. So I was still like, hey, I strongly encourage, even though I'd already scheduled a surgery, but I'm like, I'm going to get your buy in of the surgery schedule, but I just need you to show up. Right. And so, but it was after this surgery, my grandmother had a gynecological cancer
Mm.
and I needed her to have a hysterectomy, like, we need to get the cancer out. But, after the surgery, the surgeon I'm at the hospital, he's like, "Oh, can I talk to you?" So he takes me in the hall and he's like, "Unfortunately, it was too late. Like, the cancer had spread, it was touching things." And I figured it was stage
Yeah.
4, but it was like, maybe
The
maybe this
last
could work,
straw, we're gonna try,
that
yeah.
desperation, like, maybe.
Mhm.
So, I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, this is 4th of July weekend. And he's like, "By what we saw from the pathology, your grandmother's not gonna make it to Labor Day." And I was like, "Okay,
Mhm.
okay. Alright." Well,
Mhm.
he was excellent bedside manner, like, the way he didn't say it as harshly, but that's what he's saying. And I'm like, "Oh my god." So I go back in the hospital room, my grandfather's in there, like, talking to my grandmother. I was like, "Alright, I gotta go, guys." And I didn't even make it to the elevator. It was like some little nook on that floor, and I broke down in tears. And
Yeah.
I'm there, like, crying, and I'm sobbing. And I resolved at that moment, I'm like, "I'm not telling anybody."
Mm.
And I held that. I did not tell a soul that my
Mm.
grandmother's gonna die before Labor Day, okay? And I said, "Nope, not gonna tell anybody. We're gonna keep on rocking with this plan, let's go." And I was like, "If I tell everybody, they're gonna give up. She's dead. That's
Ah.
it, I'm holding it."
Mm.
My
Mhm.
grandmother lived almost a whole 'nother year later. She died in June the following year. Got
Wow!
another 11 months when they told me she wasn't even gonna make it through the summer.
Wow.
And after it happened, I was like,
I'm
and
glad I
everybody was
didn't
like,
say
"What?"
that.
Yeah, I was just like, I didn't tell anybody because I was like, I knew as soon as I told you all,
Mm.
everyone would have just gave up. We would have started planning the funeral, and it just would have been
Mhm.
Granny's
Mhm.
time. Right? It's the end.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
And my mom was like, "Why would you hold that?" And I'm like, I just felt like I had to. I don't know what
Mm.
in my brain at that moment when I was crying, but I said, I'm not telling a soul. I'm not telling.
Mm.
And so sometimes out of that desperation, it's like you make choices.
Yeah.
But for me, I think it was a good choice. I mean, it was selfish in one regard because it's like I didn't want to face what the inevitable. We knew it was a terminal cancer, but it was like, I want more time, so I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
And we
Did you
got
find
it.
it
But
Yeah. Did you find yourself holding your breath every month, like, waiting to see?
every time we went to the oncologist, every time we did new scans,
Mhm.
it's like, okay, is this the month where they're like, it's at the end? And it's always the holidays anchored her cancer journey. It was Memorial Day weekend when we
Mm.
went to that was the oncology appointment when we went, and they said, the oncologist was like, okay, the scans are not good. We're at
Mm.
the end, and, we need to talk about hospice.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, we had a good run. We had a good run. And so, but, my grandmother was so resolved about it.
Mm.
And I think it made it a little easier in the moment at that appointment that she was at peace, that she was
Yeah.
at the end. And when we left, she was like, it's Memorial Day, right? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, all right, well, I want a burnt hot dog and a Pepsi. And I'm like, I will get you
Yeah.
whatever you want, a
I'll
burnt
burn it
hot dog and a
myself. Yeah.
Pepsi. You got it, lady. And so that literally was like her last meal was a burnt hot dog and a Pepsi. And we put her in hospice. We were doing in-home hospice.
Yeah.
And the nurse called, and the nurse was like, you need to get here because, like,
It's
gather
time.
everyone. The end is near. I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah.
So that was like a Wednesday, and I would gather. And I tell everyone, if you unfortunately have to put a loved one in hospice, they will give you this book about death.
Mhm.
Read it. Read
Mhm.
it. I know it's going to be hard.
Mhm.
Read it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? She's like, remember I told you about this? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, we're at this stage. So I gather everyone. We're there. Deacons are there. We're saying goodbye, all this stuff. And the next day, my grandma was literally in bed, like we're doing the water sponge and the morphine and all that stuff.
Mm.
And the next day I come in, she's sitting on the edge of the bed, reading the newspaper, talking to my grandfather. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
That was the
"Dude,
rally.
yesterday you were on your deathbed."
Yeah.
And I was like, the book. And so I told my uncle, I was like, no, I was like, it's really happening. And he's like, what? I was like, the books say they have this last burst of who they are. I was
Yeah.
like, this is it. Because like yesterday she was, couldn't even open her
Mhm.
eyes.
Mhm.
And I had to go back to work, but my uncle was there with my grandparents. He said it lasted like 5 hours. She was up, and it gave my grandfather false hope though. But
Sure.
they were laughing and kikiing, and she watched TV.
Mm.
And then around like 1 o'clock, she got back into bed. And so
Gone.
then the nurse was like, okay, we have to move her. Like, I was like, yeah, she can't die here. So we transferred her to a facility. She was there 12 hours. She was
Wow.
there 12 hours. And that was it. And I was like, at the time, like, it took me a long time to be able to tell that story with a smile. Like, it used to be like, oh God. But I say this because it's like you mentioned it. We like to avoid death.
Mm.
And hospice care, that facility that we used, I know I probably would not have made it through that time without them
Yeah.
because of how I know they're trained to deliver that service and care that they do. But it was just like, I'm so glad I read that book, and I tell everyone, read it, because had I not read that book and saw that happening, I would have been like, oh my gosh, she's healed. All delusion, right? Like, this lady's not healed, but I would have seen him like, that's my grandmother. We
Yeah.
beat it. We beat cancer. And
Mhm.
literally 36 hours later, she was gone. And so
Mhm.
I hope people, if you do read the book, read the book. I
Yeah.
still have it. I've lent it to people that I know who weren't in the caregiving circle, but,
Mhm.
close enough. And I'm like, just take
Mhm.
because it does. I don't know. It helped me, and I know everyone's different, but I just think it helps to know what your loved one is going to go through.
Yeah.
So when you see it, it helps you go through your grieving as
Mhm.
well. And I know you mentioned your mom is in hospice,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is, I think people think, hospice is immediate, but, How long has your mom been in hospice care?
Yeah. Can I just make a comment on your story? I just love that your grandma went out on her own terms. It feels like she left here the way that she wanted to in terms of eating her last meal. She
Yeah,
was able to, like, give her husband a little bit more time. Like, I just feel like people always say that folks choose how they leave here for them, like, if they can. And I
yeah,
do believe that's true, and I think to your story of her living a whole year basically after what the doctor had said, I think that speaks volumes to, and I know you kept it a secret, but what you also kept was, like, this sense of care and hope and thriving and, like, this, like, our people feel that, right? Like, if
we
they
do.
feel when you've given up on them, but they also feel when, like, you're still showing up and rallying for them, and I just think that's just so beautiful because our people feel our energy, and you gave
They
your
do.
grandma more time.
1,000%. Like, I'm like, "You rocking, I'm rolling, let's go."
Mhm,
Like, whatever
mhm,
whatever it was, it was, and it was, like, even to the point where getting her to the oncology appointments got difficult,
yeah,
and it's like, okay, she doesn't even wanna stand up out of the wheelchair, and
mhm.
I used to think, like, I know I'm stronger than a 77-year-old man, my grandfather, but I could not lift my grandmother. Like, she had
Yeah,
gotten to a point where it was just weight, like, she wouldn't help. And I'm like, but my grandfather, I guess it was love. I always say it's love. He would literally just come scoop her up and like, okay, where you want me to put her? And I'm like, how are you doing this? Like, how are you doing this? And so it got so much so that she was like, well, I don't want to go to the oncology appointments anymore. I'm dying. And I'm like, nope, we're still fighting. I was paying for an ambulance to pick her up so they could just wheel her in and I'll meet you at the hospital. Let's go.
yep,
We're
yep,
going. And
mhm,
so that money, right? Like it costs because that's out of pocket personal
mhm,
ambulances. They do not pay
yep,
for that out of
no,
Medicare.
no,
And she had Medicare and, a secondary health insurance. So we
mhm,
were very blessed with some of the care we were able to do was covered, but then some things we learned is this the house ain't in a trust and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my
mhm,
God. But
yep,
some stuff I just had to pay out of pocket.
yep,
So but
yep,
yeah, it was to your point, it was just like I was all in until
mhm,
like until
yeah,
she's just like, "We're done."
yep, yep. I love that. You asked me about hospice. So yes, people need to understand that hospice is a benefit that's provided through Medicare. It's covered through Medicare Part A, right? Therefore, there's no cost to you. Number one. Number two is that I think that there's a lot of misperceptions of hospice of like, okay, oh my gosh, my person only has 2 weeks left to live. Let's call in hospice. And like that is true. Like those
Yeah.
scenarios exist. And in order to qualify for hospice, you essentially need to answer the question of should my disease take its natural course, they will die within 6 months or less. And
Mhm.
after that 6-month period, you're recertified every 2 months, and so you have people like Jimmy Carter, who was on hospice for almost 2 years. My mom has essentially been on hospice since May 16th, 2022. So, she I put her on the first time because when it comes to Alzheimer's disease, my mom had lost a significant amount of weight. She had a number of infections. She was no longer ambulatory. She could not feed herself and she was fully incontinent. Those were like all the markers for like her initial pass of like, yes, she qualifies for hospice. But
Okay.
typically, when it comes to hospice and dementia patients, it doesn't play fair. And so my mom was on hospice the first time for 11 months, and then she was discharged, or they'll say she graduated, AKA they kick you off of hospice because you're not dying fast enough. Um,
Wow.
yeah. So on one hand, you're like, okay, it's a blessing she's still here. And then the other hand, it's just like the rug is pulled from underneath you, like
Yeah.
all your supports, hospital bed, wheelchair, Hoyer lift, suction machine, gone, like literally within a week. So that was really
Wow.
tough. So we were off of hospice for a year, and then I put her back on, summer 2024. So it's now been over a year that we've been back on hospice, a different agency. And this time we're not coming off until she dies, because she's just declining so much. But
Okay.
I say hospice at home is great because you have someone who literally is checking in on your person on a weekly or more basis. You get the chaplain, you get the social worker. We've had massage therapists, music
Mhm.
therapists, right? It creates a sense of compassionate care that you don't get when you're lugging people back and forth to the hospital and ambulances and all the things.
Yeah. No, for sure. Like I really commend people who work in the hospice arena because I really think it takes a special temperament um, to deliver that kind of care and to be helpful to their people's loved ones. But
Mhm.
I do think I just wanted to nail that point because most people, like you said, think hospice is when we're at the end and that's it. But to
Yeah.
hear someone that's in long term
Mhm.
hospice care,
Mhm.
you don't hear people talk about that as often.
Yeah.
I will say too, you just talked about medical devices. Yes, all of the things. I
Mhm.
still I still have walkers in my garage. Like,
Yeah.
Medicare, they love to throw a walker at you, and I'm like, "I need a chairlift."
Right. Right. You got walkers, you got bedside toilets, you got, like, random stuff
Yeah, it's
that
like, no. And it's
Yep.
even like I became very acquainted with the medical supply store of, like, any device you could think of that is an assistive tool,
Yeah.
it exists at the medical supply store. Like, I got to the point where I was like, "Okay, I can't it's too much of a thing to get my grandmother to the hair salon," because I
Yeah.
was still doing it, and I found a salon that could work, and they could keep her in the wheelchair, and it was perfect. But then it became too much she didn't wanna move as much. And
Yeah.
so I was like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna cut your hair." 'Cause she used to joke, my grandma's old school, she ain't like the natural hair now. So I said, "Well, look at this. You about to be natural, girl." And I cut that hair. She had a little tiny little curly fro, and I found, like, all these devices where I could, like, pull her wheelchair up, and it was, like, a board, and she could just sit there, and I got the hose, and it would just
Yeah.
run down like,
Yep.
all of the things exist
Mhm.
at
Mhm.
the medical something to help her, like, she could at least, like, put her socks on when she was still moving,
Yep.
devices to put your socks on and your shoes on. Who
Mhm.
knew? But, yes,
Mhm.
it was worth it to me when she was still in the spirit to have level of independence, and so
Mhm.
it's like, "Alright, yeah, I'm gonna find whatever tools are out there, we're gonna get them."
Yep. And then when they leave, you're like, "Okay, do I donate these? Where do they go? Like, how do I get rid of them?"
That's what I did. Some things, like, I knew it was like I put them on, like, now, Facebook Marketplace didn't exist, but I did, like, a Facebook post, like, "Does
Yeah.
anyone have somebody who's" and somebody was like, "Oh my god, yeah, my mother's insurance wouldn't pay for a hospital bed." I said, "We have one, come get it."
Yep. Yep.
And it has, like, the circulating thing, like, because I had all the things, "Come get it." And so I donated that, I donated a wheelchair because my grandmother, when she first got diagnosed, she was, plus size, and so the
Mhm.
wheelchairs were tight, and so I had to get a special wide wheelchair because I wanted her to be comfortable. So I had
Yep.
that one, then I had the regular one, so when she got skinny, then we switched to the regular one, and so it was just, like,
Yeah.
all pads for that so you don't get sores because
Yeah.
that you circulate. I mean, it's just it blows your mind, and so
Mhm.
I'm hoping that when people are listening to this, your mind is exploding, but it's also helping you to say, "I need to get some level of preparedness for when the time comes."
Yeah.
I mean, you heard Jessica say the statistics. It's going to happen. The boomers are they're all there. I think most of our parents are probably boomers, and they're unfortunately going to age. And
Mhm.
so it's like, how do we care and be prepared to provide the best care for
Mhm.
the people that we love? And so,
Yeah.
you know,
Mm.
I just hope that people are listening like, I need to get on my shit.
Get on now, like, and not delay. I think that's the other thing too. It's like it's the holiday season, it's the end of the year. Don't use this time to actually engage in conversations. I think people often think they have to go 0 to 100, but it's
Yeah.
actually like just start the convo. You know what I mean? Like, "Hey, mom, have you ever thought about what you want to do should something happen? If there's like a crisis, who do you want to care for you? Or like, have you thought about, where you would want to go, or do you want to stay at home?" Right? Like, so I was fortunate that I was an only child. So my mom and I often had those convos, but most people don't just like bring it up out of nowhere. You've got to be intentional. And so whether it's the parent or the child, be open to just starting the small convos. I think people get, I know for a fact, parents get real defensive when you hit them with here's the POA, the will, like it's just overwhelming, you know? But it's actually just like hey, do you have beneficiaries on your bank account? Have you thought about that?
Oh, 'cause
Yeah.
that's a big one.
Huge.
Beneficiaries on your bank account, because as soon as they're deceased, they lock those accounts. And now
In a
you
heart.
can't access that money. I learned that too. So
Yeah.
once we learned it with my grandmother, I made my mom put my name on your account,
Yep.
because I'm not having this go to probate and get it locked, and you're locked away from
Yep.
the money that you maybe need to access to get things started until insurance may pay out,
Yep. Yep.
All of these things got living wills. You just said it, the power of attorneys. You need a business one and a medical one, And so if you can split the responsibilities, if you have that kind of system, like my mom was my grandmother's business power of attorney, but I had the medical.
Medical. That's
So
smart.
that's how we split it. So that kind of helped. But yeah, it's just like, but my mom also doesn't do hospitals. So she's like, I'm not going there. So yeah, I hope I think it's perfect. Have the conversation.
Yep.
It's touchy. People don't want to talk about the end. And I know it makes your loved ones feel some kind of way, like you're waiting for me to die. But no, it's just like, you need to be prepared and have a plan here. So yeah, just have a plan.
Have
So
a plan.
all right, we're at the end here. So I do a little thing called the breakdown, little word association. So I'm going to say a word. You can say the first thing that comes to mind. It can be another word, a phrase, a sound, whatever.
Okay.
All right, first one is always Black women.
That's the word, Black women? Oh, Michelle Obama. But also, Black women, strong, intelligent powerhouses.
Powerhouses. Insurance.
Crooks.
Estate planning.
Critical.
Advocates.
That's me. Like, I see me as an advocate. Yeah, that's it.
Love it. Love.
Love is unconditional. And also, I mean, this is going to sound so biblical, but it's just like love truly is patient and kind and requires sacrifice. Yeah.
Yeah. And last one, self-care.
Non-negotiable.
Love it. Love it. All right, Jessica, can you tell everyone where they can find you on the internet and on social media?
Yeah, so the best place to find me and to follow our care journey is on Instagram. My handle is Jessica_C_Guthrie. So Jessica C. Guthrie, my name. And then my website, if you want to work together, I started my own consulting agency, pivoting from my prior career into really leveraging our care journey to help and support other family caregivers, and organizations truly support family caregivers. You can find me at jessicacguthrie.com.
Love it. And I will link all of those in the show notes and on the BoonieBreakdown.com. So, Jessica, thank you. I love this conversation. It's a little cathartic for me, too.
Right? It feels good to release some of it,
It does. It does. But thank you so much.
Of course.
All right, that's it for this week's episode. I want to again thank our guest, Jessica Guthrie, for being an amazing guest and sharing her story and becoming a resource for others. So be sure to follow her, guys, and reach out if you need any tips or support or finding ways that you too can help your journey as a caregiver. And if you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to listen and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, YouTube, or anywhere that you listen to your favorites. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review in Spotify and Apple Podcasts, all right? 5 stars, they help so much. Follow us on all social media. Share the episode with those you love, those you don't love, those you fucking hate. I don't make these reels for nothing, okay? Have a dope-ass week. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay sane, stay warm. Thank you for listening. And remember, the ratchet in me always honors the ratchet in you. Home I stay. Until next time.